Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Isela Garcia,
And I'm Nina Vasquez.
and welcome to Trauma Talks and Truths. We have not been on for a little while because we're kind of reconfiguring, and we're also developing our plans for our upcoming our launch of our program, The Sacred Journey Within. So we're super excited about what we are going to be offering to folks. But welcome in, everyone.
Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm glad to be here with you. It's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a while, and I think what we're planning on doing um, is coming on once a week and going live here, and then we're also going live on other platforms. So we are excited about kind of figuring out navigating how to reach people the most. And as we were talking about what we wanted to explore today and to talk about, I what is weighing heavy on my heart right now is all of the things that are happening in the United States. And it seems to be happening very, very, very quickly. And I've been grappling with how to show up. And what I mean by that is that so my work and my intention and my purpose is really to be of service to others. And the way that I am of service to others is to help people develop their deeper understanding of their spirituality, of the truth of who they are, is what I call this. And what I mean by that is that we're having an experience here in form, and we are, we have all the ups and downs, and the everybody does the trials and the tribulations in this lifetime, but we are more than this lifetime. And we have access to the source energy that we are. And so when we learn how to navigate, and that's the healing journey, right? The healing journey of having a lived experience, right? That you are in form and figuring out how to navigate through all of the things that happens being human, you can actually at the same time access this divine wisdom, this intuitive nature, this connection to spirit, to source, to the universe. Those things, when they come together, you start to see this miraculous experience that happens in your life because vibrationally your frequency starts to rise, and at a higher level of frequency the universe just basically matches that. And so what happens is when you show up in spaces and places, and even for yourself, where you're in this higher frequency, you start to attract this like frequency. So you start to see things just sort of manifest that show up for you, the right people, the right experiences, the right opportunities for you that help you really tap into your own unique gifts and why you're here. So that's what my purpose is to help people understand and develop the spiritual awareness while helping the healing journey.
Mhm.
And yet there is this heaviness for me about what is happening in the United States. And so here I'm like, okay, I need to show up and do the work that I'm intended to do. However, people that look like me, my people, are being threatened and are being harmed, And I think for me, that's where the struggle is. How do I show up? Because historically, in the work that I have always done, I've been an advocate for people, because once I've been able to speak on behalf of communities that I have worked with, I feel a sense of responsibility to do that. I feel responsible. And yet here I'm like, this is my journey. I'm supposed to be helping it. But yet, look at the things I. So I'm trying to figure out how to show up for others.
Mhm.
That's I'm trying to figure out. So what I've come to for now is really to acknowledge everyone who is feeling some type of way, whatever your emotions are, feeling some type of way about things that are happening in the United States, whether it be fear, uncertainty, anger, because anger can propel us into some remarkable shifts. So
Mhm.
it's not a horrible thing to experience that. But I just want to hold space for people who are really struggling with how to get through their day to day experiences, knowing what's going on. Or, sometimes people just kind of put their head in the sand and they're like, I can't, this is too much for me to handle because I am going through my day-to-day experiences.
Yeah.
So I was sharing this with Nina before we came on, and Nina was like, okay, well, why don't we just kind of talk about this since it's the thing that, you're working through.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
Yeah. And the thing I said to Isela was, the question is, how do we do our deep work and also honor and advocate for what's going on in the world and honor how we feel about what's going on in the world? And we started talking about different things that can affect that. And what came up for me was like, there's a lot of privilege, right? I have a lot of privilege to be able to do the work I'm doing right now, right? I work from home. I've done a lot of my own healing journey, so I'm open, right? And you talk about like being open. There is also, as we're open to energies, we feel what's going on in the world, right? But we have the tools and we can process them. We can be with those emotions. But many of us don't have those tools. And then Isela, Isela, share what you were talking about with like working from home and other people not working from home and other people having little kids. And neither one of us have little kids at home right now.
Yeah. So I'm in a position right now where I am in my career and everything that I've done, that I do the bulk of my work from home. So that means that, I get up. Well, I have a kid that I take to school, but right now it's summertime. So I get up kind of when I feel like it. If I have meetings in the morning, I know that I do. I am up all night because I work better at night. So I'm up at night. If I'm feeling, frustrated, irritated, sad, any kind of thing that's happening, I can step back from my computer. I can get on my treadmill. I can just go do something different. I can do some somatic work. Like I can do those things. But I think of the days when I had to be in a classroom with kids and I had to show up at 6 o'clock in the morning, or I, was leading an entire agency. And I'm like, okay, I had to be there. I had to show up for people and I had to be there to support whatever it is that they were experiencing. And so I honor those that are really struggling with how do I stay connected to what's happening, and also have to go through my day-to-day experiences of life. You've got little kids and you've got things that you're responsible for, and it's not just it's just I see that I am in a very privileged life right now. Hasn't always been that way, but right now, and it is, yeah, I just want to acknowledge that it can be very challenging.
Yeah. And privilege isn't just, it doesn't have to do only with money.
Right.
It's not the amount of money you have. It has a lot. I mean, and in many ways, we are not privileged.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, anyway.
Intersectionality of I'm brown and I'm a woman. I mean, we could go down that
Right.
path too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the day-to-day experience of, I think, Isela, you talked in our community, because we have a community about the Michael teachings, and you talked about the different levels of consciousness, and that brought to me I'm sorry, the different levels of the soul's journey, right, and where you are. But it reminded me, we're not all going to be able to advocate in the same way, right? There's going to be many of us that are deep in survival, meaning we're barely or not getting our needs met, right? And for those of you who are not getting your needs met, and that's your focus, sometimes we should all over ourselves. Like we say things like we should be able to do more, we should do more. And we just want to say that we see you. And when you're in survival from a trauma-informed lens, when all you're focused on is getting your needs met, it would be very, very challenging for you to be able to process emotions that come around this, to not be in fear around this. And so we just want to say that we see you, and we offer spaces to do deep work, but we also honor where you are right now.
I think I just think about how many folks, and if this is you, let us know, because I think there are so many people who are in the experience right now of, you talk about getting your own needs met. Some people are in the space of not even recognizing what their needs are.
Yeah.
And so they're so busy doing for others all the things that other people need, but not really understanding what it is that they're needing. And I mean, physically, emotionally, spiritually, it's like to understand what I need right now can be a perplexing question for some,
Yeah.
because they haven't had the practice of being able to, not only the practice, but the opportunity to be able to pause and to recognize, okay, what are my needs right now? And I think, Nina, your story is a really good example of this, because when you were growing up from a little girl, you learned that um, the way that you received love was to do for others and be for others.
Yes. Yeah. The way that I receive love is to be and do whatever I think you need me to be and do.
Yep.
And then I'm getting my need met by doing that. So I'm only focused on what I think you need me to do, what I think you need, who I think you need me to be. And that is a survival strategy. And so if I'm in that survival strategy, I am not thinking about what do I feel, you know, what's coming up for me. I'm definitely not, going into an introspective place, right? Because I'm only focused on that. And many of us, we unfortunately go through our whole life not knowing we're in that strategy. I mean, I was in my 40s before I realized I was doing that.
So this is an interesting, I think this is something interesting to explore a little bit further. So I sometimes forget that people don't, in general, many people have a difficult time with understanding their emotional state. Like, what is it that I'm feeling right now? What is it that's happening within my body? How is this showing up? What is this thing that's showing up? What is that called? Right. And I was doing a training, because I'm still out there like training and doing professional development for folks. And so I was out there not too long ago, actually. And a woman said to me after my session, she goes, I've struggled so much with other people who've come out and presented for us, because they always say, tap into what you're feeling right now. She goes, I don't know what that means.
Oh,
Like, I don't know what that means. She's like, you broke it down in a way that I understood it a little bit better, but I still don't, I don't know what my body is trying to, what it's emoting, basically, because I don't know how to connect to that part within me. So can you think about when you first started to notice what you were actually feeling? Like, how would you interpret feelings before that? And then at what point did you start to go, oh, I'm feeling something? Like, how did that evolve for you?
it is still evolving for me for sure. But I do remember the very first time that I learned about feelings and emotions. And the directive that I received from my coach was to start describing what I felt in my body, like hot, cold, like so temperature, fast movement, slow movement, just try to describe it like I was I'm describing it to an alien who doesn't know how humans experience feelings or emotions. But I always try to explain it like I was a balloon. Like imagine a balloon with a string. That's kind of how I felt. I was like intellectual. I was just like from here up. And so anytime somebody was trying to get me to literally get me to tap, I love that she said tap in. Anytime somebody was trying to get me to tap into what I felt, I would just cry. And I was so afraid to go into my feelings. It sounds really weird for me to say this now, but maybe you'll resonate with this if you're listening and you feel a disconnection from the body. I was so afraid to feel an emotion because the story I would tell myself was if I spend time actually feeling what I'm feeling, I'm going to go into a deep, dark hole and I have to work.
Yeah.
I have to work to live.
I have to get up the next day. I got to get the kids to school. I got to yeah.
at the time I was actually by myself during this time. I didn't, but imagine like, so that's literally what I was doing the whole time I was raising my child too. I don't have time for feelings. So I'm going to go down a deep, dark hole. I'm not going to be able to get myself out. And what a deep, dark hole looked like for me was depression and I cannot function. Right. And so it took me a really long time just to go from like just saying that out loud to like, oh, okay, I notice a little bit of butterfly. Even right now, I'm noticing like a little bit of energy in my stomach, just like movement, right? It took me a long time to go from I don't want to do this because I don't have time for this and I need to survive and pay bills and I have things to do. So it just for me, I think the best way in to the body is breath. And unfortunately, I learned that way after I was trying. It was like, I was like pushing myself to connect with my body. But, I think the gateway in is your breath, because imagine somebody like me if somebody like me was in my session today and they're like crying. I mean, I'm like blubbering mess because I'm like, yes, I feel a lot of emotion, but I can't let myself feel it, even though I am a mess up here, right? I would actually invite them into their breath immediately. Right. And now a blubbering mess, you might have to breathe through your mouth, but I would have a few deep breaths to bring in some regulation and disconnect from that mind, because the ego wants you to believe it's not safe to go into your body.
Right.
Right. And so that was the hardest thing for me. And I'm still to this day, I find myself trying to avoid feeling feelings, and we go to coping mechanisms as humans. It can be food, alcohol, porn, social media, overwatching Netflix. Sometimes we don't want to be alone, so we'll go and have relationships with people that aren't good for us, right? Because we don't want to be alone with our thoughts and our feelings. There's many things that we turn to as vices, overworking out, just to avoid our body, our emotional self. But that's kind of did I answer your question? I feel like I went off a little bit.
You did. I think that as I listen to you and I kind of explore, I actually don't remember when I started to notice what was happening within my body, but I think it had to do with my work with kiddos. So as I was helping them be able to identify what it is that they were feeling, I was doing it at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And I was describing kind of what I was experiencing. So like the tingle experience in my stomach, like that butterfly kind of nauseous sort of feeling. Butterfly and nauseous don't really sound like they're the same thing, but for me, sometimes they are.
Yeah.
And I think it was my practice of helping others, whether you're 40 or 40, I say, it's like I was helping others notice the things that were going on in their physical body. I started to get better at noticing what I was experiencing. But what this reminds me of is yesterday. So yesterday, I've been helping a friend work through her experience with her father, who is close to transitioning from this life into spirit. And her mom kept popping up for me yesterday, and her mom passed away many years ago. And so as I'm texting her and just kind of providing some support, I get this sensation. So the way that I feel people who have crossed over is it almost feels like they're invading my personal, my body, my space. And it's almost like they're crowding in my chest area. And it's hard for me to breathe. It's kind of like, when people describe like an elephant on your chest sort of thing, it's like, and I'm trying to work and I'm feeling the sensation. So then I have to like pause and go, okay, am I having a heart attack right now? like I still go through those, like Why am I short of breath right now? Is it that so I go through this and I'm like, oh shit, because it's sort of like you change the dial on a old transistor radio.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go through my form and try to figure out, okay, why am I short of breath right now? Why do I feel heavy here? Am I stressed? Am I feeling overwhelmed by something? So I go through the whole checklist. And then I back out, I turn the frequency and I back out and I go, oh shit. I see you. I see you now. And so then I have to tell spirit, I have to tell them, you got to move back because I know you're just trying to get my attention, but I can't breathe. And so you got to move back. And usually what happens is like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was trying to talk to you, but you weren't listening to me. And so then she moves back and then I can get messages and connect with her. So I think that had I not done all the work of connecting with my body and recognizing the sensations in my gut and the sensations that I have here in my chest, I would not recognize those signals that come through from spirit.
No, you would not, which leads me. So I want to get your question for this, not for me, but for people listening.
Yeah.
Your answer to this, excuse me. I want to get your answer to this. When people ask, when I'm trying to like sell someone on feeling their feelings, I usually bring in science because people are motivated by goals and results, especially if they're not from a spiritual lens. So I bring in like your feelings drive your actions or they keep you from taking action, right? And that can kind of get people to understand, right? Like if you're feeling encouraged, inspired, motivated about something, you're going to move towards it, right? But from a spiritual lens, why should we even care about connecting to our emotional self?
From a spiritual lens, well, there's lots of parts to this. So the first part is that we actually signed up for this shit. And what I mean by that is that when we're in spirit, we don't have the gamut of emotions. Because when we're a spirit, the ego, which is a collective, it is not, you don't have an ego and you don't have an ego. We all have a collective ego, sort of like we all have a collective consciousness, right? We are all of the oneness. So the ego gets quiet. It's not that it's completely, that it no longer exists. It gets quiet when we are on the other side. Mm-hmm. And we are more in awareness and alignment. And we have a greater understanding of all the lives we've lived, of what we have tried to accomplish from lifetime to lifetime, where we have been outside of Earth, by the way, because there are other places that we may have visited or that we actually come from. And so we have a greater awareness once we're on the other side, right? And the reason why we come in is because we want to experience the gamut of emotions. We want to experience it. It is a very dense place to be. And so when people talk about the light and love, I used to think that was like a hokey ass thing that people would say until I actually understood it. So we're so dense. And what happens is you start to release, you start to become less dense and more light works through you. Because light is your ultimate, that's what you are, is light and love. And so what happens when you start to release all the bullshit stories and the hurt and the pain and all the things that vibrational frequency is kind of low, what we actually bring and we connect with the light that we truly are. Okay? So we come in with the intent to feel the shit so that we can actually evolve consciously. So that we can evolve our own awareness and understanding and ultimately get to the place where we align with this in form as a human and we can start to manifest the life that we want. But we come here to feel the shit, not to have this happy, beautiful experience of life. The shit is this duality that helps us want to have not shit, to have a good life.
Right. Well, let's talk about how trauma affects our ability to feel.
Oh, totally.
Because, okay, let me grab, I got some toys recently to play around with this. So you talked about the denseness, right?
Right.
So like, imagine that you came into this life and you walked through some terrible adverse childhood experiences. And now this is your body, your emotional self is so dense. And I'll use myself as an example. I have a trauma response of freeze and flight. So that means when people have a trauma response of fight, when they are stressed, they go into the fight, right? For me, I froze, would freeze. And then so that showed up in my everyday life as well, because any type of emotion was too much, right? So I'm completely dense. But the moment I start doing emotional work and somatic work and nervous system work, I start to expand my capacity, right, to feel emotion. And then I keep doing it. And now I expand my capacity more and more and more. And after an expansion is always a little contraction, but you never go back to that dense space, right?
And in that, as you're opening, light, your essence starts to really shine.
Yes. And
come through.
And come through. Yes. And come through as well. So you can start to attract in, right? And so when we do the work, we're creating more capacity in our nervous system to hold more. But we have to go in and start taking out some of the actual denseness that, when you were 5 years old and you were abused, and, or you were, 10 years old or you were bullied. Like, there's many things that happen when you're growing up in those first 7 years that can be, can affect how much you can feel. Because I'm getting a little passionate about this. But my first mindset coach, who was heavily successful in that field, you know what she told me was, put yourself in harm's way. That was her technique for expanding.
Like throw the baby in the water?
Yeah, throw yourself in the water. But if you tell somebody with a freeze response to throw yourself, I can't even get outside in my car to go to a networking event at the time.
Right.
Like, you cannot just throw yourself, because your body literally stops you. Your mind, you could tell yourself, I should just go. Humans are safe, right? And just go. But like, your body actually stops you. Right. And so I'm glad you said that about like why we even want to do emotional work. And I'm still working on myself to be able to actually feel my emotions. Like, I constantly see myself trying to avoid emotion, because at some point in my life, emotions were too much, too fast, too soon, and not safe. Mm-hmm. Right. And so now I'm like trying to see, like, even like you said, excitement or butterflies, my body leans away from that. I don't want to feel any of that. The body, logically, intellectually, I want to feel those things, but it leans away from it and not towards it.
As you build that capacity, so as you create more spaciousness, is what is often how it's referred. Mm-hmm. When you create more spaciousness, you actually can feel not only in the body, but you can feel spirit. And this is what I think is the glorious experience of the healing journey. And there are people, I have had so many conversations that people have said to me, oh, you have such a gift. And I'm like, okay, so I don't believe that it's a gift, at least not in the way that I have been chosen to bring in, messages from spirit in a way that, makes me any different than anybody else. I think we all have the ability to connect with who we truly are, which mm-hmm. aligns with source, with spirit. There's lots of words for it. But I think that this idea of giving somebody else somebody else has the gift and I don't, is a message in itself. Yeah. Because you do have it. You have it. We just have to create that spaciousness. And you do that through healing and through allowing and learning to surrender. I mean, there's a whole journey. It's a whole process. Yes. But my ability to connect with spirit, like to feel, like even the sensations in the back of my neck, like I'll get like a tingling sensation and I'm like, oh, okay, I need to change the frequency on that radio. So then I shift it and I'm like, oh, I just sense an angel behind me. Like
Oh,
now I can connect, and now I have to kind of just, it's surrendering is what I'm doing. I surrender, and then I go, okay, who's communicating with me? Who's trying to talk to me? And so if I wasn't connected to the sensations and well, you have to do, like, they go hand in hand, our emotions and our sensations, they go hand in hand. And so as you become more aware, then you can go, oh, I recognize so and so communicating with me or whatever.
yeah. And, I want to say for those of you listening and watching us, I am in this process of, because we have to interpret what those sensations mean,
Yeah.
right? Or what, I'm in the process of, I'm connecting more and more to my emotional self, the sensations of my body. Even as I'm sitting here, I've been doing it. I don't yet quite either trust or know what those sensations are. Sometimes I get a sensation on the top of my head, in my scalp. I've noticed that.
That tingling?
Yeah, a tingling sensation. It'll be like kind of back here a little bit. I've noticed that certain times. I start noticing sensation in my chest a little. Oftentimes it feels like Vicks on my chest, And so I haven't quite came to a place where I understand all of them yet, those sensations, because those are more, and you tell me what I'm missing, if I'm missing something, Isela, but some of them they're not emotions.
Right.
They feel just sensational. I can tell the difference from an emotion because I want to avoid it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I have noticed that, and it's happening the more and more I can connect to my body. And, it's not a light switch.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a light switch. When I discovered that, like, oh, I have emotions that literally can be felt. And then, it was taught to me that if you allow and surrender to an emotion, it'll go through you in 90 seconds, and the surrendering process is really hard, because to surrender, for me, that word had a charge in
Mm.
it. But then
What
I was
does
like,
that mean? Why? Why does it have a charge? What does that mean?
okay, we're going there. So, I'll just say what came to my mind. When you're a sexual abuse survivor,
Mm-hmm.
surrender is not a thing you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels very unsafe, even in a sexual experience, to surrender to your partner, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So that word just really had a charge for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started with the word allowing.
Mm-hmm.
Allow. I'm just going to allow. I'm just going to allow myself to try to see if I can feel this sensation, vibration for, 10, 15 seconds. And then I can distract myself if I want to. I would just start slow. And so that's why surrender had a charge for me. Now it doesn't have a charge for me. I see it as I'm surrendering to divine, to source, to the process of what you said. We signed up for this, and I think I need to be like hit over the head many times to remember that, because this is the thing that keeps us from growing as humans. There's things we want in life. We want a different job. We want a different relationship. We want to travel. We want to do all these things, right? But we keep ourselves because we're afraid of change. We're afraid of uncertainty. We're afraid of getting the rejection. We keep ourselves from stuff all the time as human beings. But if we were just willing to feel all the emotions, we wouldn't keep ourselves from things.
So this feeling of emotions, I want to go back to surrender too, because but so one of the experiences, or one of the things that I do, is curiosity is a really big part of how I make sense of things, which I'll say in a minute. But I do this thing where, like, if I'm getting sensations in my hands, like a tingling sensation in my hands, or like you said, at the top of my head, or like yesterday where I felt it in my chest, I the very first thing that I typically do, not always, but typically, I'll say, "Oh, I feel you." And then I describe what I feel. So I feel you tightness in my chest. I feel you tightness in my chest.
Mm.
And then I open up in my mind a place of curiosity. So then I'm like, okay, either I'll ask it, I'll say, tell me more,
Yeah.
right? Or I go, I'm wondering if that's fear. I'm wondering if that's fear. And so I'll have a conversation with the sensation in my body to explore what it could be.
Mm.
Okay. And it's a question. It's like, it's just being curious with it. And I think where when I'm hearing you say, and I'm thinking that a lot of people might even experience that when they are, initially starting to get connected, right? That it may be more of a, I don't want to feel that. Why am I feeling that?
Yes.
Don't feel it. It's like a judgment. And I think that part, judgment work outside of feelings, is really, really important. Really important. Because then you're no longer ridiculing yourself for having an experience. You're simply having an experience.
Yes. And that has been one of the blocks for me for sure. Because my body just, my mind, maybe, I don't want to say my body, my mind did not want to have any feelings,
But what's the fear?
of feelings.
Yeah. What's the fear?
It's hard to say. I don't know if it's sensation itself or it just feels unsafe to have.
Yeah. And there's stories. I mean, I get when I ask that, I get it,
Yeah.
because we have old stories. We have old stories and old experiences that our body remembers from childhood, right?
Yes.
99.9% of the time, it's a
Yes.
story of not feeling safe. So
Yeah.
let's go down that road about not feeling safe.
Let's talk about it.
Because I think, and I just sent out a newsletter on this because, I've been doing a lot of reflecting around sacred activism and stuff like that. And I think a lot of people are in the space of feeling unsafe. And I want to challenge that. Are we really feeling unsafe, or are we are we experiencing discomfort? Because I think sometimes what happens, especially because of neuroception, all of our experience kind of shape how we make sense of what it is that we're experiencing now, right? It and our body's job is to keep us safe. So we go on alert, right? We start to think that I'm unsafe, I'm unsafe, I'm unsafe. Oh my goodness, I'm unsafe. But are you in this moment unsafe? And I don't want to dismiss the people who are, not feeling safe, because people are in circumstances that are shit. There are people in marriages that are shit. There are people that are in circumstances in terms of what they live and how they experience that is really hard and heavy. And I don't ever want to dismiss that and pretend that you should feel safe when you are unsafe.
Yeah.
But are you unsafe right now? Because we don't know how to be with our discomfort. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, we also don't have the capacity sometimes to be with
capacity. Yes, we don't have the capacity. We got to build the capacity.
We have to build it.
Recognize that right now in this moment, I am feeling discomfort.
Okay. Yeah.
And learning how to be with discomfort.
Yes. And that's a really good point you're saying, Isela. Okay. Two things came up for me. Pam, I see you live. So yay. Hi. And Pam said, and sometimes we don't trust that if we surrender, we'll be safe. Yeah, I get that. We haven't even come back to the word surrender, so we will. But I have to say this, building capacity is different than using regulation tools. Okay, so if I'm feeling uncomfortable right now in this conversation, I can take a couple deep breaths to get through it. But the difference with building capacity would be I am so uncomfortable and I'm doing it uncomfortable. And I'm allowing uncomfortableness to be here with me right now. And then I'm allowing it. I'm like opening up to it. I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable to say the thing I'm about to say, and I do it anyway. That's building capacity. So we can use myself as an example. Maybe it'll help. This just like came to me as you were saying that. Never thought about it this way. okay, it might come out messy. All growing up in my younger years, which we know matters the most, I was living in a low level of discomfort.
Mhm.
Right? And I'm trying to figure out why I tried to avoid discomfort when it's low level. But I can go and do the hard shit that's really uncomfortable. Like, I mean, this just came to me now, which is so weird. And maybe it's a story of it must be hard. So I'm just going to like if it's okay, I'll just say it.
Mhm.
But like going to the military I came from a small town, 31 people in my graduating class, went to the military. Then I've done a lot of plant medicine stuff, and many of them were hellaciously hard, right? Then it had to get really hard for me to just leave my marriage after 13 years. So that's this is what I'm sitting with. I'm wondering if like I go and do the big hard stuff that really evokes activation and fear, but the low level, like, I don't know, go out there and market more or go ask some, like this is like business stuff. I'm not I'm like, oh, I don't want to be uncomfortable. So I'm curious about that. And I have to maybe dig in deeper, but maybe that's hitting somebody right now. It's like we're willing to go do the big stuff, but not the little, not little, I don't want to say little, but things that just cause some discomfort, not true fear, but just discomfort in my body. And when we circle it back to activism, you would never catch me at a march.
Mhm.
And is that true fear, or is I just don't want to be uncomfortable?
Mhm.
I might not want to have uncomfortable conversations. I might not want to be uncomfortable with people seeing me there, knowing that I'm there. I'm just being really real right now. That's very weird to me. Yeah, so that's just hitting me right now. Difference between it's just uncomfortable versus I'm afraid.
Mhm.
Because I can go and do the fearful thing. Huh.
So I wonder then of being curious
Mm-hmm.
about the discomfort. So for me, I think there's a difference between discomfort that comes from kind of the thoughts that I have about a situation and a story that I'm telling myself. So I have to become aware if this is part of a story that I'm telling myself. Like I'm uncomfortable here because when I was 4, this happened, or when I was 25, this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have a story that I'm connecting it, and that's why I'm feeling some level of discomfort. And then there's a different part that I kind of move into is where are the sensations in my body where is it activated? What am I feeling? How is it showing up for me? And so for me, those are two different experiences. So sometimes it'll be like a clenching in the stomach. Geez, I remember, when I'd have to fire people. It was
Yes.
whole experience. I'd have to fire people. I would get that sensation in my stomach, that dread in my stomach. I would just notice the sensation without judging it, without trying to tell a story about it, without any of those things. It's just learning to be with that discomfort. I knew where it was coming from. I mean, who wants to do that shit, right? There's a lot of fear, there's uncertainty. You don't want to hurt somebody, and this is hard. I mean, there's so many reasons why that make that fear valid, right? But to learn how to just be with the experience of feeling uncomfortable, of literally sitting with it and just noticing it and giving it space. And then being curious about it. Like, why is this showing up?
Yeah.
Tell me more about this. Because, 99.9% of the time, there is a memory or something that, brings us to the state space of feeling what it is that we're experiencing. And so I would say to you, Nina, as you explore this, because I can sit here and tell you everything that I think, but this is you sitting with that experience. And just to your point about activism, so one of the things that people don't have an understanding of is that activism doesn't mean that you're actually, I'm not saying not to go protest and march and do all of those things. You have to do in the way that you can do, the way that you show up in the world, how you can help. There are lots of levels of being a helper and somebody who serves. And one of the greatest ways that we can do that is actually within our own communities and within our own families, because it moves from, macro to meso to micro, and then back and forth. It's kind of like this, breathing, this expansion of breath back and forth. There are lots of levels of ways that we can serve. So it doesn't have to look that way. But if that's something that somebody's exploring and they're wanting to go, okay, I'm having some level of discomfort here, invite that in.
Mm-hmm.
Curious about it.
Yeah. Pam mentioned something. I think she said, I think sometimes we think the little things are insignificant, but they're just as important. We measure things as huge or small. And that's really huge. Not huge, but like it's a big aha moment for me, because thank you, Pam. You're right. I'm thinking it's a big thing. It's a small thing. But there's such thing as content versus context. How was I walking through the thing I thought was big? I was probably clenched, jaw tight. Like I'm not feeling any emotions during those big things. It's like riding a roller coaster, with willpower and white knuckling it. And so I could go through what, even like things that I experienced that I felt were big, and I probably wasn't open and creating capacity in that space either. So yeah, we do judge things. And I think the more we're willing to feel our emotions, for me personally, the more I'm willing to feel my emotions, the more I'm willing to even be uncomfortable.
One of the things I used to say to people, I haven't said it in a while, but it was something like, how do you feel about being in your own presence wholly and completely? Just being with yourself, the messy, the good, the stuff that you've hidden, the emotions, the feelings, the perceptions, the judgments. And that's always been my, if I had to say goal, I don't like to use the word goal a whole lot, but my intention was to, in the privacy of my own space, that I can honor who I am and how I show up in the world.
Is the question, how do you feel about yourself? Or is it, how are you able to be with yourself? Like
both.
Uh-huh.
Are you able, and how do you feel about that? Yeah, both. Just being able to just be with yourself without judgment of self. Just being in the space and recognizing all of the journey, the now, the entire experience that we've had in life. And I will tell you, from somebody who connects with spirit on a regular basis, on a daily basis, talking to my guides and angels, they're not judging you. No one is judging you on the other side. There is no judgment. Even when you fuck up 15 times and you did the same shit and now you're in a relationship that you wish you weren't in and you've done it again, your guides are not looking at you going, what is wrong with you?
What do they do? What does it sound like?
Simply are. There is nothing but the presence and the experience of love. That's all it is. Because they too recognize that this journey is an intentional experience that we signed up to have. So that at a soul level, we get to have the ups, the downs, the pains, that's all intentional. But we're so attached to an outcome. We're so attached to the reality or the perception of this reality that we can't lift out to recognize that we are simply on a journey. So when bad shit happens in my world, when bad shit happens, I'll cry 2 days, 3 days. I'll cry. I'll be like, oh my God, and then this, and then this, and I'm so frustrated. I'm so irritated. I'm feeling all these things. And then I kind of allow that to move through my body. I sit with myself and I go, okay, this is the journey. Just keep it moving. Keep it moving. And I know I'm divinely guided and I know I'm divinely protected. And what I mean by that, it doesn't mean that like bad things don't happen to me when I say, well, I'm divinely protected. What I mean is that I am more than the Isela that you're looking at right now.
Yeah.
I am part of source in action.
Yeah.
Nothing beyond when I'm done here, I continue to exist. And I have a greater awareness of all of the lives that I have experienced to get to this level of understanding and awareness.
Yeah.
So the idea of fear, like I get it from a very human experience and I go through the same human experiences, but it's also just like knowing that it's a bumpy fucking ride, but I am more than this journey.
Yeah, and if we all could adopt what our spirit team, how they see it, right? And what Isela is inviting us into is riding the waves of it all. What she's not inviting us into is trying to be in a high vibrational thought process only.
Oh God, don't get me down that road.
Okay. But that's really important that you can distinguish.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Isela just had to bring me back from recently trying to change my emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
I spent a whole weekend. I'm in perimenopause and things are a little crazy right now. I spent a whole weekend trying to change it and judge it and trying to fix it and figure it out. And then it took one moment of talking with her to remember, like, oh, this is the human experience. Right?
Yeah, thank you for saying that, because I have to tell you that as somebody who talks a lot about spirituality, spiritual bypassing is something that consistently happens in the community, in the spiritual community. And what that is like, I'm not going to deal, I'm uncomfortable right now, so I'm going to shift out of what I'm experiencing and I'm going to go to a high vibe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to go to high vibe and I'm going to function at the level of like high vibration, positivity. I'm only going to see the beautiful things. That's not what I'm saying. And Lori, yes, Lori, I'm going to put your comment up here. It's comforting to think that it's a journey. That's exactly what I feel. It's like, okay, yes, we've got tough shit going on. And yes, this is hard. And yes, there's a lot of stuff that we deal with as human beings. Yeah. And our job is to feel it and to move through it and schlep through it all, right? Building our capacity so that we can do it with more grace and ease.
Yeah.
Right? And at the end of the day, it is a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. And you have guides. You have guides that have been with you sometimes lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. They've seen you in lots of different forms who are accessible to you. You have source. You have the power to connect with source, to get clarity and to feel safe. Mm. It's not just safety within the body because of our nervous system and how to, build capacity at the level of being human, but to know that you are source in action. There's comfort in that.
There is. Yeah. A lot of comfort in that. And sometimes, like me, who feels very new to knowing that, I don't always remember to ask.
Yes. Can I tell you that when I remember when I was probably 12, I was probably 12 because I had just watched an episode of Oprah where she was talking to the screen. I remember Oprah with the big hair. She was like talking to the screen, so with her face. And she had said, no child should ever be treated this way. And the episode was about sexual abuse. And it was an aha moment for me that I was like, what do you mean no child should be treated this way? And in my mind, I was like, I didn't equate it to, my experience wasn't sexual abuse. My experience was living in a chronic state of complete fear. And I had this aha moment in that moment. I was like, I only need to survive. I only need to survive. And I told myself, I only need to survive. And the moment that I could leave here, I would leave here.
Yeah.
And that I could change my life. And I had such a deep faith. We were cafeteria Catholics. We were, I got kicked out of catechism. We weren't like deeply rooted in our Catholicism. It was more ethnicity connected to Catholicism than it was actually the religion itself. It was just historically what my family practiced. And so I remember just going like, and I used to do these prayers and I'm like, okay, that's what's going to get me out, is this deep faith that I had no rhyme or reason, no teachings. There weren't people who actually said, do this because God will do. It was none of that. It was this deep ingrained faith that I had, that all I had to do was believe. That was it. Was just believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, I think that's where I get where I am now, where I have this deep rooted understanding and awareness that regardless of what happens here, I'm divinely guided.
Yeah.
Protected.
I can really feel that even in the way that you shared it. This deep knowing. Right. And that is not something that I innately have.
Right. I think it starts with faith, right? And this is why I don't like the word faith, because faith is believing in something that you cannot see, right? It's like having faith in something. For me, it's not like I have faith in like relationships, faith in like people, but I have a knowing. And I don't have the need to kind of make you believe that, or for you to have a knowing, because you get to have your own journey. You get to have your own experience.
On the way to having a knowing, I think there's a step, and that step is belief, choosing to believe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's faith and belief in that faith. Yeah. And then as you continue, and this is where the healing journey comes in, right? Mm-hmm. Because as you continue to heal and develop and build that capacity, you start to actually, and Nina, you do this, even though I don't know that you're consciously aware of it, but you'll be like, right now I'm feeling, or what's coming to me right now, that's not you. That's spirit working through you.
I know. So I think the ego just plays with me and doesn't let me believe that this is real. You guys, I have done some miraculous healing on myself. Miraculous. You would not believe this shit. And then the ego's like, no, but that's not really source or God, it's wild. Yeah. So, but there is a deeper, I mean, there's a knowing, but just it's in the works right now.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me going.
I think what happens is the more and more you trust yourself, the more and more you trust source. Ooh. Because you are source. You are source in action. We are all aspects of the divine, having a unique experience, because source wanted to experience itself, but it can't in its perfection. Mm-hmm. So we are aspects of source experience itself. So the more you trust yourself, the more you trust source. And for some people, they do it the opposite. They trust source, but I believe that keeps you separated from source. Does that make sense? When you trust source before you trust yourself, I'm not saying not to do that, but it keeps you separate from source. You are source in action.
Ooh, I feel that in my stomach. Yeah. Yeah. I needed to be reminded of that. And I know we're coming to a close today, but I think that comes from religious conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And social conditioning too.
And that source is outside of you somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere out there. And really, you are an aspect of source.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of went all over the place.
Yeah, I did. I have ADHD. It is what it is.
Well, I think that this was a great conversation, and I trust that it was meant to be, and it helped someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Pam and Lori, thank you so much for joining us live. And if anybody else is here live, thank you so much for being with us live. We have a community. It's called the Love Being Community, and we invite you to join us in that community. If anything we talked about landed or resonated for you. It's a free community for now. And then we have a paid tier for $33 a month called Heal, Rise, Align. We've got some big things coming for our community. So if you'd like, we'll drop the link in the description or the comments, depending on where you see this at, and to join our community. Anything else, Isela?
No, but it's not only kind of the content we share, but I used to hire people based on my gut instinct. So when I used to, because I, used to run crisis intervention programs and all of the things that, serve the community. And I literally would hire people. I would look at their resume and I was like, okay, that's all well and good, but like I get a sense of who you are as a human being, and you're a person I want to be with and be around. And I think that you're a good fit. So that's what I say to people when they're looking for folks who are just wanting more guidance and support and awareness and connection and community. Go with what feels good. Yeah. Go where the people who are sharing and they're speaking resonate with you at the level of their frequency, their vibrational frequency. Go with what feels good. Because when you feel good, you feel God.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
See y'all.
Bye.